as you see here, we have a book, The Art of Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a beautiful art book. I'm not going to go over every single page, but I want to use this book. I want to use this video. Why this book? No specific reason. It's just one of the art books that I recently purchased. But I want to use this video to pivot my YouTube channel. See, if my numbers are right, if I was to look back at when I created this channel, All Things Lich, I think it was February of 2019. Coming up here in about 3 months, we'll be hitting 3 years with the channel. Now, I never set out for vast numbers of subscribers. I mean, sure, if it provides some sort of income, wonderful. But my goal has never been to attract as many people as possible to the channel. It's to stay authentic, to put out there the things that excite me, that get me juiced. And I believe that that information is and always will be worthy to someone out there. Someone will take some value in something that I'm rambling about. And if I can just share one thing that helps one other person, just one single person's journey through any creative pursuit become a little bit easier, a little bit smoother, or maybe even better, inspire them to take that journey themselves, mission accomplished. If it's a single person and that was the only subscriber I've ever had, mission accomplished. But I am aware. I am, at the end of the day, even in my other profession, everyone is a sales guy, right? Everyone is selling something. Everyone wants to not just create content in a vacuum. They want that content to be consumed, not monetarily, or not for monetary gain, but if for no other reason than to be consumed by as many people as possible because you feel like you have something that you can offer. Leave this world a better place, they say, correct? And I told myself I was going to give this journey, this YouTube thing, a year. We've already passed that by a long shot. And I think I want to pivot the channel into, and I'm going to tell you a few reasons right now before we get into this book. I want to pivot the channel towards my journey towards creativity. Both the things that got me to where I am today and the things that I continue to pursue that'll help my creative journey for the rest of my life. And the reason why I want to do that is because, number one, it'll broaden my range. It'll broaden my scope. It'll also allow me to interject and just create video content on more things that interest me, that are outside of the tabletop role-playing space, that are outside of the D&D space, that are outside of 5th edition D&D. And perhaps attract a different audience, a larger audience. Maybe there's someone out there that has writer's block, or they're just not sure if their ideas are good enough, right? And they're hesitant. They're afraid to get started, but they have no ambition towards being a dungeon master, towards being a player, towards playing D&D. They just want to write a story. They want to create a piece of art. They want to become a concept artist. They want to be in the video game industry. Whatever it may be, creativity is not limited to one thing, right? So I think number one is it allows me to get back to doing a lot of the things that I enjoyed, which was things like this, looking at art books and purchasing things that just fuel me. You know, watching TV shows and movies and YouTube videos on tattoo artists and graffiti, the things that formulated and shaped me as a creative individual. But I don't want to leave you guys behind. I know there's a lot of people that take a lot of value in my 5th edition D&D content. And to be true, that is still my number one pastime. That is my hobby. 5th edition D&D, I just started for what might be for me arguably the most exciting campaign I've ever had. Just a few days ago, we restarted a brand new campaign. We left Eberron and we are now playing in my world of Silberat. And I'm super jazzed. I think anytime a DM gets a sort of a fresh restart and you get to take those characters back down to level 1, the game gets exciting again. So yes, I'm still funneling and putting all of this creative effort towards compelling content for my table. So if I'm still in the hobby and I'm still into 5th edition and I'm still into D&D, of course I'm not going to leave that behind. But here's the interesting thing. I'm starting to realize more and more the things that are enabling me to become so much better as a dungeon master in 5th edition D&D are creative pursuits. They're not specific to D&D and certainly not specific to 5th edition. The things that I am pulling from and leaning against and unpacking that are helping me become a better storyteller are videos and masterclass videos and all sorts of, following in the footsteps of those that are just simply great speakers, great communicators. How they speak, the words they use, their understanding, or I should say their depth and their vocabulary, how they pause between words. And these are folk that are not talking anything about tabletop role-playing, fantasy, D&D, nothing. I'm not talking about I'm just seeing how Tolkien wrote or George R.R. Martin wrote or what Brandon Sanderson says. No, I'm talking about the way Neil deGrasse Tyson speaks, Jordan Peterson, like engrossing myself in these amazing Stephen Fry, who I do believe was in one of the Hobbit movies, but just listening to how they speak about anything from science to medicine to religion to whatever. And taking those little quirks, those mannerisms, those inflections, how they use their hands when they speak to emphasize the point, the word that are coming out of their mouth. It's helping me create better NPCs. And when I look at things like this, like art books that are video game specific and very sci-fi futuristic and not specific to the world of D&D, it's helping me to create more compelling encounters, more compelling environments. So the journey towards creativity is the greatest asset you will ever have as a dungeon master. So become more creative, become a better creator. And I implore you, through my channel, through my videos, or otherwise, to search outside of the genre, outside of the hobby, outside of what's familiar. Get out of your comfort zone. The 5th edition D&D game space with the latest Strixhaven video book that just released, I was thinking about making a video on that. I do that. I buy the new books as soon as they release, and within a day or two, I try and put a spotlight out. I'm trying to digest that a little more and really see the crunch and the value of that Strixhaven book, because as it stands right now, it's another piece of content that's kind of pushing me over the fence away from D&D, from 5th edition, I should say, not D&D, from 5th edition. And I'm noticing that there is just this high level of saturation in 5th edition D&D that I'm starting to explore other venues. And that's not to say that that's where this channel is going to go. But I'm noticing that as I'm getting a little burned out on everything 5th edition is offering, because it's kind of just going down that same path of 50,000 character options, just more and more character choices, more feats, more spells. Watch the most recent, I think it is, video by Runehammer. Watch it. I strongly encourage you to watch that video. He talks about the same sort of thing, and he's one of my creative outlets, one of my creative muses, so he says it more elegantly and more succinctly than I am right now. But I'm noticing that if I still have to prepare for my group, and I still have to play D&D, and I still have to run my campaign, and I've got 8 players sitting at my table every other weekend that are waiting for me to provide entertainment for them, and that's a very important, something I take very, I take a lot of pride in that. I take that very seriously. What I'm having to do is I'm having to see how branching out and looking at things that are not D&D specific, how can they still help me prepare my session? Because then it's a matter of give and take and sacrifice, right? If I get burned out with 5th edition D&D, but yet I'm reluctant to tell my players I'm getting burnt out with 5th edition D&D, what's going to happen is my prep time and my game is going to suffer because I'm spending all my time doing non-D&D stuff. So what I'm trying to do is find the value and the things that I can pull from these non-D&D creative pursuits and how they can still crunch down into 5th edition D&D. And I'm hoping that not only will you be introduced to something that maybe you didn't think of, and you get to see a sort of wider view of the way my mind works, you might still find some value specific to your journey as a dungeon master or a player. Okay? That is a very long 10-minute introduction to say, I'm shifting gears, guys. All right? So stay along with me on the journey. The Art of Horizon Zero Dawn. As is typical, I played this quite a bit, but I did not finish it. It's been a long time since I've finished, like I did growing up and through high school, where my goal was to finish every game I played and every franchise. I usually dabble now, and then I just get bored with it or whatever, and I move on. So I never finished this game, but it was fabulous. I really loved it. I love not only the art style, which we'll see a little bit of it here. Like I said, I'm not going to go over this whole book, but I guess the theme, the tone of the game was, it felt very new and fresh. So The Art of Horizon Zero Dawn, I think you can get this on Amazon for like $20. So huge sell for me. So it's pretty thick. I'm not going to cover all of it. Back cover has a little bit of info there. The Art of Horizon Zero Dawn takes you through the vast and vibrant world of Guerrilla Games' newest title, featuring detailed sketches and gorgeous concept art, as well as insight from the artists and creators. From magnificent cities and lush plains to the diverse cultures of the tribes and the amazing machines that roam the lands, this stunning visual companion is the ultimate guide to the creation of a world as beautiful as it is dangerous. I would also like you to excuse the nastiness of my hands. I am a working man. I'm a weightlifter. It's cold out. Yes, I use hand cream and lotion and all that good stuff. But dip your hands in chalk, weightlifting chalk enough. Grab barbells, grab kettlebells, dumbbells, all day long, hours and hours. And then be as cold as ass outside. And it is what it is. So I'm not going to get a manicure for my videos. All right, let's get this set up. Here we go. There she is. I think her name is Aloy. Voiced by Ashley Birch, I believe, who is the same person that did Tiny Tina, and she's also played some D&D with Matt Mercer and the crew. The Art of Horizon Zero Dawn, Paul Davies. I don't know if Paul Davies is the guy who sort of put this together, or if he's the art director. Really diverse, lush landscapes, jungle, snow, the Nora tribes. There's a lot of culture in this game, a lot of, diversity and aesthetic. There's Aloy, really cool heroine. I think she might have even won some awards recently of, like, other than Lara Croft, one of the best female leads in a video game. I love this style where you're getting very, certainly there's colors, but it's loose sketch, real quick, exploration art, right? Like, look at all the different hairstyles that they're exploring. And, of course, we're looking at, professional concept artists here, so world-class stuff. But I look through this, right, and I think of, like, what does this spark specific to D&D? And I'm not doing that just to appease those in my YouTube audience that want 5e content. It's just where my mind goes. But I like to give myself that freedom to search for that stuff, to search for 5th edition D&D content certainly outside of 5th edition, but also outside of D&D as a whole, right? Because I don't know how long I'll be in 5th edition D&D, right? There's another edition that's going to come out. There might be another role-playing game that everyone at my table is excited about that we're going to play. And I don't want my mind to only be able to pull from dragons and orcs and Forgotten Realms, right? I need to pull from all creative sources, right? What was that movie? Super 8. All of Steven Spielberg stuff, Michael Crichton, Jurassic Park, right? Star Wars, Dune, the old and the new. Amazing Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, I should say. The Marvel movies, DC, Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger's performance as Joker. You never know what you need to pull from for your creative juice, that library. I love this. I'm thinking of like a decoy or something, right? But I love that sort of not duplicity, but that the way it weaves between like technology, but then you've got like very old world tribal, feathers and like straps, and this looks very kind of original Half-Life to me type stuff, or Half-Life 2, I should say. You have kind of these very tribal Native American, but yet Viking-esque in a way, right? But then you can have like the shaman magic cult leaders and whatnot. But look at all the adornments, like all this right here, D&D or Horizon Zero Dawn, this tells a story. I mean, what are all of these, that like it looks almost like Celtic knotwork, but also like Ouroboros a little bit. You've got the feathers. I mean, is she a witch doctor? Is she a prophet? Is she a seer? As I said, when I did play the game, I played it when it came out. I never finished it, so I don't know who these characters are. But you know how I am, where I can pull a picture out and then come up with a story to launch off of that. And the same is the case here. I mean, there's so much going on. Right there. I mean, look at that. That's beautiful. I love this as like a dwarven fortress or something, But now when I describe, instead of Helm's Deep, where it looks like, you're using the terrain to your advantage, no, it looks like a ram or something up there, right? So it has that motif. Remember how like Rohan and, Edoras, well, Helm's Deep, right? Two towers. Everything was very horse, the horse lords, very horse aesthetic. When you watch the behind the scenes of the making of Two Towers, they talked about that a lot. Right? But here, I mean, I describe, as you come into the valley and you notice there's a wall. But the wall is actually the short part. Way above that, almost, more than twice as high are these, this knotwork and these decorated and carved and engraved pillars. And you can tell, like, the statues are carved into it, the kings of old, the dwarven kings of old. And this clearly is a dwarven place of antiquity. That inspired what I just said. But that's a lot better than just you come into the valley and there's the dwarven fortress, a fortress, a bastion of steel that's impenetrable. This gives a lot more to it. I'm going to grab and I'm just going to do the little thumb flip thing, right? Because we're going to go too long in the video otherwise. Ooh. See, that's just almost like a stair. There's these robotic things, and that has like a tail feeling, but to me this kind of looks like a spinal cord of a Dracolich, and you climb the vertebrae, is that what it is, to make your way up to the to the ruin. Imagine you walk in down here and you see the spine and the fossilized remains of the Dracolich, two of them. It's a Dracolich Graveyard, and you make your way up the vertebrae. And there's an epic battle that happens. I mean, come on, everyone's going to remember that. Remember that one time we were looking for the ancient elven ruin and we found this ancient Dracolich graveyard and we were on the spine of the Dracolich, and on the way up we got attacked by these weird bat vampire things, and you know what I mean? It was this sturges were coming in from all angles, and orcs were over here on the parapet, on the platform shooting arrows at us, just like they did in, when they were escaping Moria and blah, 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 right? But you're going to remember, yeah, and the fight took place on the bones of the Dracolich. That's cool. But now when I start creating something in D&D Beyond, an encounter, I'm thinking through that. So there's obvious hazards if you fall off of that, falling damage, right? Can someone loot those bones or maybe take one of the vertebrae out and create some sort of rare exotic bone weapon? But maybe if you're playing in like a Dark Sun sort of inspired post-apocalyptic world, maybe that bone weapon has some value to it. It gives that magical weapon necromantic properties. But maybe that bone weapon can also be taken to some tribal leader in a nearby kingdom, and you can now rally that kingdom to fight alongside you to take down the ancient evil dragon and blah, 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 Like, the amount of inspiration here, not just sitting back looking at pretty pictures. I mean, hell, that whole section did happen to be called Ruins. There they are. These are things I remember fighting a lot. These, like, ostrich, robotic, cyborg, robocopy things, really neat. Look at this stuff. And just that dichotomy between, like, look at this. I mean, it's almost like looking at Hawkeye in Avengers, right? And feeling like, dude, One of you, it looks like you're ill-equipped for the technology level that's going on. Iron Man's throwing Iron Man stuff and you're shooting a bow and arrow, you know? Here it's like, look at this. Yeah, she has an amazing compound bow and all this other stuff, but that guy has a hand axe and a Viking helm, and this dude looks straight like a Conan type of thing. And then there's a freaking robot T-Rex thing with missile launchers on the back. You know what I mean? I love that, but what that screams to me is, why not take the ogres in your world and maybe they got a hold of a bunch of Modrons. And with the Modrons, they built like tanks, right? Or whatever, like BB-8 rolling wheels, just rolling across the landscape. But then freaking ogres are on it. You know, ogre howdahs type stuff. So play with technology in your world. Just be inspired by this stuff, just like this thing here. You know, you can get up there, and is that like a communication dish? Is that a big platform to see, you know, a different vantage point? What if there is this weird creature, but, you know, it's a dragon, but he's got like this platform on top that you can actually climb up? Like, think Shadow of the Colossus video game. And you get on top of the dragon's head, and it gives you a different vantage point on the kingdom to see where the threats are. And that's the thing you have to be able to tame or get its trust so you can climb it, so it can let you see the encroaching enemy. That's the storyline. Otherwise, you don't know what's really coming at you. And the king is like, I don't know how many forces and what our army should put towards this oncoming force, because I don't know how large they are. So we need to get a better vantage point. Well, don't have any flight in your world. Have these things, and you got to get to the top of the dragon's head to be able to see it. You know, the dragon is wingless. So there you go. I mean, $20, you know, I'm definitely going to obviously read this on my own and digest it and look through it. Hey, wait, I know that guy. That's Broyles, I think, from Fringe. Pretty sure that's him. I love the art style is so, man, look at that. I mean, right there, I can take a snippet of that, and that's my barbarian character in D&D easily. But then you wonder, what the hell are those things? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit gnomish invention steampunky, you know? So there's a lot here. I think the next one, maybe not necessarily next video, but I'll pull it off the shelf. I think we'll delve into this one I bought as well. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So I know it's a big gloss, but don't worry about that. That's my camera. I'm showing you the behind the scenes. No. So that might be coming up next. What else? I have a few others. I have a lot. Like, if we're going to go down that rabbit hole now of like just my creative efforts and the things that inspire me, just wait till you see what is up my sleeve. That's all I have for you guys. Thanks, everybody. And stay with me. I think you'll enjoy where the channel is going, because more importantly, it's the stuff that I'm excited about. And if that comes through on camera, oh boy. All right. I'll see you guys soon.